And so because of that, I must ask myself if moments like these ones.
See, getting something like that would be really cool, but when your upgrade consists of just a few percent more on maybe like, instead of damage reduction, you've got your weapon. It's like, oh, I got 1% more on vulnerable damage. It's like, it doesn't feel that great, even though it's an upgrade. And that's probably a huge upgrade because it's all damage reduction. But how often do you find something that's all damage reduction mods? And what's the point of having all these different types of damage reduction mods? It's just kind of annoying. Like from close enemies, while fortified, just straight damage reduction, and then from distant. That's just kind of annoying. There's too many of those. I think they could get rid of close, while all these conditional ones. Just have the flat one. You have damage reduction, and then you got mods that actually do other stuff. Because see, you got the 17 while close isn't going to be active when you've got the distant. Like those don't. So it's your damage reduction isn't constant. It's constantly going up and down depending on where the guy's shooting you from. And it's cool to get a piece like this that's damage reduction on all the stats, but they're all different. It's just really annoying. I find it like it just doesn't feel as good to me. Because you got to get close, and then oh well, this one's distant. I'm never distant on enemies, so I got to look for another piece that's got something else there that I can actually use. The gear, it just doesn't feel that great to me, personally.
Are going to keep me into the game for multiple years. Again, I try to look at this from both perspectives. I've been fairly...
I think that it's fun to do for a few times, but like after you already do this shit a couple of times...
You do it a couple times and it's like...
You need to have new items and like new stats and stuff.
Agreed.
Positive about the game, but 100%. I have seen a lot of criticism when it comes to the in-game.
Uniques that you can actually get that drastically change how you play a build is the kind of stuff I want to see. Like a unique that's really rare, but maybe after I play for 4 or 5 weeks consistently, that I can get it, and I get it, and it's not just a lot of stats that I currently have, just really high values, but it's like something that changes the way that build plays. So it's like something I really want to try and get for, and uniques that you can actually work towards over time. I think would be the way to go. Instead of, oh, maybe you can win the lottery and get something really cool. It's like, I'll never see that, so what's the point? It might as well not exist. But something like, just let me salvage uniques. So let me salvage 100 uniques, and then I could use shards or something to buy from a vendor one I can. Even if it's just, hey, you get a roll, you get one of these, you got one in an 8 chance to get the one you want. Okay, I can at least farm and get what I want eventually. But just pure chance sucks ass.
Game. So this video is me trying to open myself up to that conversation and understand it from that perspective. And because of that, if I am trying to be blatantly aware, I don't think just getting new items and min-maxing each of these slots would keep me interested for years to come.
No.
And because of that, that brings us back to the season conversation of feeling like season 1 has a lot of pressures on the shoulder for Blizzard. I think where currently people are standing is they are really looking to see any notification from Blizzard in order to know where they plan to go with this game. I think this
that's the thing, right? Is like a lot of the people that are Diablo fans that are talking about the game on YouTube, right? I mean, like, Diablo has, like, a massive silent majority of people that are just, they heard about Diablo 4 because they saw a commercial for it, right? Or they saw the Megan Fox commercial, like, oh, maybe I'll try this game, right? Sure,
hey, they bought the double down.
However, like, the people that are, like, way more serious about the game, these are people that probably also played, they also played Path of Exile, right? 100%. They played these other games. So, like, they know, they played Diablo 3. So a lot of these people know like what they want to see and what they don't want to see.
For sure, and Diablo doesn't need to be Path of Exile. I 100% think it should be more casual. But having uniques that you'll never see does not make it more casual friendly.
very obvious.
And I don't even mind them being as rare as they are if there's another way to get them. If I could work towards getting them and then somebody day one drops one, awesome. Then that dude should be ecstatic. He got something that I'm going to have to work a month for even. But if there's no way for me to get it within a season reliably, what's the point?
If we actually look at the current patch notes, one of the feedbacks I've seen from
I don't give a fuck if Season 1 is good or not. I don't even think Season 1 is going to be that crazy. I'm going to be honest. I think what I care about is Season 6. I care about Season 10.
Yeah,
because, I mean, PoE...
It's how they progress
PoE has
over
bad
time.
Seasons. Okay, that's fine. I know that the developers of PoE are smart.
I hope they go hard on the first season just to get people in, but 2 and 3 maybe might be as good. But I really want them to put a lot in Season 1, and I hope they do. But I think, yeah, it's how they progress over time. 'Cause maybe if it's not good, I just won't play the first few seasons. But I'd like to have a game I could come back to, when a season is good. And that's kind of how PoE is. I don't play every season because not every season appeals to me. But sometimes I'll be like, oh, that season looks good. I'll give it a go. I ain't played in the last couple seasons, so let's go. And I think that's what they got to do. As long as they progress higher and higher over time, keep adding more content, I can come back and play it later.
And I trust them to make the right decisions. So if they have a season
think they will,
that doesn't really appeal to me, I'm not that interested in it, that's okay. Because I just wait for the next one, it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
But like with Diablo 4, I do think that obviously there's a lot of pressure for this, definitely. What I want to see from the first season is I want to see like more end-game content. Like a couple more end-game systems.
Even though these are mostly changes that we, the community, directly asked them for, teleporting to dungeons, experience in dungeons, even the balance changes that got some with a flack, we literally asked for generation for things like Fury, Spirit Essence, etc. We more or less wrote a good amount of these patches. Even
I've been fine with the patches. Like I think they've been working on it. They've been slowly balancing it, and so the fact that they haven't just abandoned it right out the gate is a good sign, I think. It is a little annoying when they I do like how Path of Exile doesn't change things once the season starts, because then you're throwing off the races and everything. But we're not even season 1 in Diablo, so I think that's okay there. But once the season starts, I don't want them changing things. I don't want them rebalancing unless something's just absolutely broken. Like if it's just plain not working, that's one thing. But I don't want balance changes once a season actually starts.
these sort of buffs, for instance, do have negative connotation in them, which are fair enough points, because people will say that, oh, 1 to 5% buff, who cares? That doesn't fundamentally change the game.
Probably
Which
not.
they're correct. It does not fundamentally change the game. It is minor buffs. But what it does is show that the focus from the audience isn't necessarily on these minor changes, but that people are really looking forward to new content, which is where the major point of this conversation comes in.
Well, it's also the vision of what the game is and where the game is going to go. The vision is what people are really waiting to see.
Yeah.
Is this game going to become
go.
interesting? Is it going to just be the same bullshit that we've seen before? Are they just going to do Diablo 4 seasons the same way as they did Diablo 3 seasons?
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes sense. Because
like
with
PoE,
PoE, there's a new system every season. There's new bosses almost every season. And it changes the meta up a lot.
What it really boils down to...
And they've got some easy things they could do right out the gate. You know, you have the butcher spawning. Well, he's the only one that spawns like that. Why not get some other bosses like the butcher? You know, you've got the Auric. He's an easy one you could go with. There's other former act bosses that you could have spawning like the butcher. I think that'd be an easy way for some extra content. And then I know there's a hunt for the cow level right now, stuff like that. I found a book that belonged to a guy that was searching for the Goblin Realm, and he just gave me some money for it or some plants. He's like, hey, thanks. I lost this when I was a young kid looking for the Goblin Realm. It turned out to be bogus, but thanks for my journal anyway. It was like, well, maybe that later on leads to a quest that can unlock and go into the Goblin Realm where you can get lots of gold and stuff. Things like that, I think they should add.
Two
And
is at
it looks
some
like
point,
that
the
might be what they're
majority of
planning.
players, either casual or in-game, are going to hit a point where they feel like they need something else to do in the game. That is happening fairly rapidly for in-game players, and casual players, the average player, are slowly starting to get there. So what I currently believe is that Season 1 is going to be two things. First of all, it's going to be a much-needed injection of content, things to do.
Hopefully.
But it's also going to be an indicator, a sort of green or red light for most of the audience as to whether or not they're going to keep their interest into this game for years to come. If Season 1 comes and the seasonal mechanic, the seasonal quest, the seasonal challenges are very interesting and give you a lot of things to continue to grind for, to have a lot more in-game content than maybe is currently in the game, then I think that's going to keep people's interest a lot longer than we would originally think. However, if Season 1 comes and the seasonal mechanic is minor, the world...
2 treasure goblins. So, like, think about like this, right? Okay, so, like, imagine, like, if a treasure goblin spawns... Okay, get this. So, like, you have a treasure goblin spawn, but then, look, then there's 2 of them. Wouldn't that be crazy?
If it ain't at least 3, I'm going to be on Reddit. You can believe me. If there's not at least 3, I'm going to be flaming Reddit.
What the fuck?
Tier 5 doesn't come, let's say that's Season 3 for the data mine that we saw of the world Tier 5, etc. There's not really any new bosses, or let's say they don't bring the campaign bosses back where we can do them, and it's sort of more the same
Please let us
thing
redo
reskinned.
campaign bosses.
I think we're going to see some people getting borders sooner rather than later. And while I myself play for just more the fun of it than anything, and obviously creating content, I don't have every character maxed out on 100. I do actually try to see things from the perspective of the people who are not like me and have been grinding a lot harder and a lot farther, and they've already cleared Nightmare 100 and Uber Lilith and all these things. And I could see from their perspective that if you're at that point and you have lots of characters maxed already, you're probably already ready for the new content at this point. And Season 1...
I'm not that worried about that. What I'm mainly concerned about is the gear grind from like 70 onward is like really boring. So like, how long does Blizzard expect people to stick along with the game? Just to like...
Yeah, I'm actually not past that, up there in them upper 80s and stuff. But from what I've heard, the just 70 to 100 is there's just kind of a dull area there. And I'm guessing they're probably going to do another world tier. They kind of have to, I would think. And maybe a new world tier will make some of those super rare uniques a little more common. Like, that's one of the things I'm expecting Season 1. They're probably going to do another world tier.
Like min-max their gear a little
That'd
bit
be another
better
easy
to do the
easy
exact
thing
same
for them to do.
the exact same stuff that they already did. I think that what makes PoE's ARPG progression...
But yeah, like finding the exact same gear every time is like, oh, well, I've gone up. Like, I've got all my ancestrals, but now I got to go get the same thing, but now they're primals. It's like, There's only so much of that you can stomach, in my opinion. At least there's only so much I can stomach. Maybe somebody else really likes that.
So satisfying is that they have a number of bosses in the game that act as benchmarks and challenges in the game that act as benchmarks. Like you have Shaper Guard.
And on Path of Exile, when I do a new build, I could just go and do Tier 1 maps again until I work back up, instead of the way they've got it now in Diablo, where it scales up to me. So if I change all my gear to try a new build, I've got to basically farm out all that gear before I switch over and make sure it's all maxed out before I swap over, or I'm going to have a bad time.
Guardians, Elder Guardians, Shaper, Elder, Cirrus, Conquerors, like everything. You guys know what it is, right? You played PoE before. There are all these different bosses, so like you go and you fight these different bosses and you build up to being able to beat like Uber Searing Exarch. Like, let's assume like that's probably the hardest boss in the game, maybe. Like, I don't really know, but probably like something like that. So let's say Uber Searing Exarch is the hardest boss in the game, and you compare that with Uber Lilith. If all you had in PoE was Uber Searing Exarch and tier and maps, and there were no special bosses, there was nothing in between these two things, the game would suck. So it's about having things in the middle to where everybody can take steps towards that, because that's what the issue is, I think, with Uber Lilith. is that Uber Lilith is like this insanely, ridiculously fucking hard fight that comes out of nowhere. Like, it's completely out of nowhere. Like, what the hell is this? It's like 5 times harder than like anything else.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they had a weaker version of her that I could practice on before going and doing the big one. Like, obviously you get the story one, but you can't replay that. So it's like in Path of Exile, I can do the non-Uber versions to kind of learn some of the mechanics. Although I don't like having to farm the 4 keys for everything on the Path of Exile. That's kind of annoying. So I hope they don't do it that way on Diablo. I'd like to be able to get to the boss and try it without having to spend, a couple hours of farming just to attempt the boss once.
Else in the game, and not only that, but there's nothing that you even build up to in order to do that. Like, it's not like you do, like, like level 80 Lilith, and then level 90 Lilith, and then level 100 Lilith. No, you just go straight from, like, the last hard boss was, like, Elias or something like that for, like, tier 4, and then you go to Uber Lilith. That's insane. There needs to be more challenges in that period that, like, you can work towards over time. I think that's what's really missing.
Really needs to deliver for those people. While a lot of us are still making new characters and experiencing the game, every time that we do make a new character and experience the beginning of the game, we're experiencing it for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th time at this point. So I do think that going into the further in-game seasons, it's got some weight on its shoulder. I think Season 1 is going to be sort of a make-or-break-it point. I really hope they hit it out of the park, both because I want to see longevity in the game. Obviously, I would like to continue to create content on it for the years to come. But I also think that it's going to be important for the people that are the really, really hardcore audience in this game that have, talking to people that got 5 100s already or 3 100s, whatever.
What the fuck?
Already cleared Uber Lilith.
Holy shit.
Well, I think there's only so much you can do to please those guys.
I think those people are probably ready for some...
There's a certain point where you can never please them. They're going to burn through all of that content and then be mad still, because you just can't please those guys fully, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean there shouldn't be new content for them. Just, you can't break your neck to try and please someone who's already got 5 100s, because nothing you add to the game will last them that long.
Content.
Those people, I actually don't think Blizzard should really do anything to like keep those people engaged, because it's impossible to make those people happy. They're playing the game 15 hours a day. They're like 0.01% of the population. Like, you should look at them as mining canaries, as like, if these people are unhappy with the system, are the average players going to be unhappy with it in like a month whenever they get...
That's a perfect way to look at that. It's like, you can take what they're saying. It's like, oh, they're having this issue. Okay, maybe we can look at that and start working on it, because normal people might have that problem a month from now. It's like watching Imtash play Honkai Star Rail. Like, a couple days into it, he's like having all these problems. And what are you talking about? It's like, he's not exactly wrong with what he's saying, but a normal person's not going to reach his point for a couple weeks, so it's not as big of a deal as he's making it out to be.
Get to the same spot. And like, so I think that those players do have a value, but trying to keep up with their with just how fast they consume content is impossible. Like, it's impossible to do. What they really need to do is they need to move, like, let's say the game has like, let's section the game off into like 5 different parts. I think sections 4 and 5 need the most work. Like 4 and especially 5, but like, again, that kind of goes towards like the, like a minority player base. But like 4 and 5, there's just really not a lot to do that's interesting or transformative at the end game, other than just running the same dungeons over and over and over. And the dungeons don't change enough for them to be interesting. It's the exact same dungeon.
Yeah.
However, I do still firmly believe most people don't have a level 100 at this point. Most people are probably at the level 70, maybe 80 level or so. Most people don't have many alts, and there's still plenty of content left for people to absorb
I just didn't want to burn myself out before
But I am seeing an increase in comments, both as well as YouTube, as well as the live stream, from people saying that they are now ready for new content, or they're hoping for new things to come into the game. And it's starting to feel like the tipping point is going a little bit from one way to the other. So season 1 for me, and the point of this video, is I think season 1 is going to be fairly important when it comes to actually delivering content.
I think so too.
Now, if you're curious,
I do think season 1 matters a lot for Diablo, especially from like a reputation and perception point
I think
of
that's
view.
exactly it. Yeah.
But personally, I don't really care.
It's going to set the tone, I think, for future seasons is the big thing. So if it completely bombs, it's probably going to be several seasons before anybody even looks at Diablo again. But if season 1 is good, then season 2 can add a little bit onto that. It doesn't have to go as hard, I think.
If season 1 is good or not, because if it's not, I'll just play something else until they make it better. I understand that Path of Exile took many years to get to where it's at now, and I'm willing to let Blizzard take time to improve the game. You know, like, I'm not paying a sub fee. I already bought the game.
That's true.
And I got my money's worth easily.
I think
many
I got
times
my money's
over
worth
with
for
this
sure,
game if you value it $1 per hour. So I'm just waiting for D4 sponsor. I actually don't have a D4 sponsor. It is a GameStop.
I think you did
sponsor.
get one. Oh, okay, GameStop.
Yes, keep that in mind. Nice
Okay.
try. Yeah, GameStop sponsored us to buy their to promote their bundle, not Diablo 4. Anyway, point that I'm making here is that I don't really think that it's gonna have like. I don't think that season 1 is going to be. It's not going to, like, season 1 is not going to take Diablo 4 and catch it up to PoE. It's not going to happen.
Not at all.
This is going to take probably like minimum 2 years, and realistically 3. The "it just came out" excuse doesn't make sense to me whenever it's applied to Blizzard. I think it does.
What?
I mean, and again, like, I think it's a personal value proposition, and on a personal level, I feel like I have received my value out of playing Diablo 4. How many of you guys that played Diablo 4, you played it for over 50 hours? You got your fucking money's worth.
Yeah.
Okay? You got your fucking money's worth. So anything that they do on top of that, I'll be happy. I just want to see them improve the game. I want to see it happen. Season 1 is not a make it or break it for me, but season 6, season 10, that's where the vision is going to come in. And I am very concerned that their vision is just going to be doing bullshit buffs and nerfs and not actually making the game better.
I hope not.
That's what my concern is. Who cares about season?
That's why I think season 1's important. It's going to set the tone for how seasons for Diablo are going to be. If they just do some minor buffs and changes, then it's probably going to end up like Diablo 3. But if we see new content, new bosses, if they go hard on season 1, I'll have more faith for future seasons. And yeah, it's not going to catch up to Diablo or to Path of Exile for several years. Like, that's just Path of Exile's, their content took several years. Like, it doesn't matter how much money and people you throw at the problem. There's only so much that can be added into a game without just breaking everything. So that stuff takes time.
Season 6 now, because season 6 is an indicator. Remember what I was talking before about, like, how I did reviews for live service games based off of a trajectory? If I understand where the trajectory is going, I will be more or less hopeful for a game. So what I care about is that. I care about trajectory and where I think the game is going in general. Why are we not taking into account quality of content? Pay $200 to someone in a pool, and that pool's full of shit. Did I get my money's worth? I don't know. I think the quality of content, like, I can't speak for anybody else. All I can say is that I played Diablo 4 a lot. I've enjoyed the game for pretty much all the time I've played it, minus like a handful of periods. And I think I got my money's worth for the game. Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean,
am I crazy?
You go to a restaurant and you eat the whole steak and then tell them that, hey, this steak was shit. You're not going to get your money back. You ate the whole steak, man. Even if you didn't like it. If you didn't like it enough that you weren't going to eat it and turned it back, that'd be one thing. But you consumed the whole thing. So you got your money's worth, even if it's not something you particularly thought was the best.
I got my money's worth, but it's not a great game yet. It has potential, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, and it's a live service game. I think this video is very accurate, though, that a lot of people are going to be judging Diablo 4 off of this first season.
100%.
Like, this first season matters a lot for
does.
Diablo 4. And
Absolutely.
if they do it wrong, or it's not, people don't view it, it doesn't have at least as much content as the PoE seasons have, I think people are going to be worried. I think that if they announce, you know, there's like a couple new bosses and there's a new system that you can use, it's like the Herodric Cube or some bullshit.
Yeah.
I think people will be happy. But if it has less content, then
it doesn't even need to be like a full Path of Exile season to like a cube, a few bosses. Like they could definitely get away with something smaller as long as it's substantial. Like it's noticeable what they've added.
An average PoE
If it's just balance changes, that's not gonna fly.
season, that's what's gonna make people worry, because that's what everybody.
It's gotta be something people can make clips.
That's what everybody is gonna be judging it off of. Because
like, oh, here's my run of this new boss.
Is the gold standard, and if they don't hit that benchmark, then why are people not just playing PoE? So that's what I think. So Darth microtransaction video. He's got 200,000 subs now. Look at that. Holy
nice.
shit.
He
He
deserves
just made his video about 100K subs just
He
recently.
does good videos.
Good for him. Make sure to be one of them.
All right, y'all have a good one.